Hello, everyone. Welcome back. You're tuning into a love story that's not for the faint of heart, where James and Ly Tu Diep face shocking revelations, betrayal, and life or death choices. If you're drawn to stories that are emotional, intense, and wildly unpredictable, then hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell right now. Because what's coming next will leave you breathless. Will love be strong enough to overcome misunderstanding? Will the truth be revealed before it's too late? Don't look away, because each upcoming episode will cut deeper into love, trust, and the power of forgiveness. No one could have imagined that Tung, the very man who once shattered all trust, would be the one to turn back at the most critical moment. For a long time, Tung lived under a disguise the world completely misunderstood. A double-crosser? A traitor? A heartless man standing between James and Diêp? That's what everyone thought. But the truth was, Tung was secretly risking his life to protect the truth. He chose the most dangerous path, to become an undercover cop. In the shadows, amidst a web of intricate conspiracies, Tung quietly fed information to the authorities. He infiltrated the dark world of John, the criminal mastermind behind countless tragedies, to help bring him to justice. No one knew, no one was allowed to know, not even James. And it was this forced silence that ultimately killed the trust. One fragmented memory, one overheard conversation between Diêp and Tung, taken out of context, was all it took. James misunderstood everything. In a split second, all the love, all the hope he had built with his whole heart, turned to dust. He thought Diêp had betrayed him, thought the trust he'd given so completely had been trampled. No questions, no confrontations. James chose to walk away. He vanished, as if he had never existed. And Diêp? No one knew what her heart had to endure in the days James disappeared. A world without James didn't feel like a world at all. It was cold, colorless. Mornings came without his warm smile. Nights passed without his gentle arms around her. The pain from her illness returned, but this time there was no one to whisper, "I'm here." She kept living, or rather, kept trying to survive. Still set her alarm every morning, still made coffee like a habit, still smiled at the outside world. But inside, she was completely shattered. And then one day, an old song played, a melody that once belonged to the two of them, and she broke. Tears, long suppressed, flowed uncontrollably. The ache of missing James was a flood that drowned all sense. She sat quietly in the corner of the room, clutching the old shirt he once left behind. Her heart felt like it was being crushed, and she asked herself, "What did I do wrong? Or has James truly changed? Does he no longer love me, need me?" Memories flooded her mind. The way he looked at her in the rain, that tight embrace in the hospital, the promise, whether you're strong or weak, healthy or sick, I'll never leave your side. But now, he left. He went silent, and she was left behind, lost in the very love that once felt like the safest place in the world. This wasn't just a heartbreak, it was a wound, deep, relentless, and slowly consuming her from the inside. And the cruelest part of it all began with a misunderstanding. If James doesn't realize the truth soon, then perhaps the girl who once lived for him, who endured everything for him, will slowly disappear into the very pain he unknowingly caused. James was still lost in the labyrinth of his own mind, a place filled with doubt and heartache. He kept wondering, was Diep's love ever genuine, or was it just a mask hiding betrayal? He didn't know what to do, to move forward in search of the truth, or to stop and protect the last fragments of his pride. Deep down, James was afraid that if he saw Diep now, he wouldn't be able to control his emotions. Afraid he might say something sharp, something that would hurt the woman he still loved. And that was something he could never forgive himself for. He returned home, weighed down by a storm of emotions. The familiar room now felt foreign and cold. Only the ticking of the clock echoed in the silence, each beat a reminder of the time slipping by since their last words to each other. His mother, a woman who had always silently watched over her son, noticed the unease in his eyes, the heaviness in his steps. One quiet afternoon, she sat beside James and gently asked, "I haven't seen Diep around lately. Is something going on between the two of you?" James froze. The question struck him like a gentle yet piercing blade. He couldn't bring himself to meet his mother's gaze, the same eyes that had watched him grow and now saw through every layer he tried to hide. He looked away, his breath trembling, and then, as if he could no longer carry the weight in his heart, James opened up. He shared everything, the doubts, the regrets, and the fears he had buried for so long. Each word peeled away a layer of armor, revealing a heart quietly bleeding from confusion and pain. His mother didn't scold or judge. She simply placed a tender hand on his shoulder, comforting him as if he were still a little boy who had just fallen for the first time. With love in her voice, she said, "Son, I may not know all the details, but I trust a mother's instinct. I believe Diep is a good girl, and I truly believe the love she has for you is real. Some things in life don't need to be proven. They're meant to be felt with the heart." Her words were like a beam of light piercing through the darkness, clouding James's soul. He sat there, silent. And then the memories returned. The times Diep cared for him when he was sick, her radiant smile that chased away his weariness, the way her eyes sparkled each morning when she saw him. James realized, while he had been drowning in fear and pride, Diep had endured far more pain than he had imagined, all because of a misunderstanding that never should have existed. He had retreated too far into silence, too deep into his pride, and she, that fragile yet resilient girl, had stood there all along, hurting, yet never once blaming him. And in that moment, James knew, if love still lived in his heart, he could no longer keep running. Under the gray sky, raindrops tapped gently against the kitchen window, casting a somber rhythm that filled the air with a heavy stillness, as if the heavens themselves were weeping for the girl curled up in the corner of the room. Diep sat quietly on the cold kitchen floor, her back against the cabinet, hair cascading messily over her shoulders, her eyes swollen from nights spent crying herself dry. She no longer had the strength to console herself. In that small, dim space, there was only the sound of the rain and the shallow, broken breaths of a heart that had been shattered. She had tried to be strong, told herself she would move on. But in this moment of vulnerability, she collapsed entirely. And then, the door burst open. James, the man she had loved with all her heart and, at times, resented just as deeply, stood in the doorway, drenched from the rain, his breath uneven, his eyes ablaze with emotions too long buried. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to ask, didn't need to explain. There was only one truth pulsing in his heart. He had to hold her now, before it was too late. James moved quickly, dropped to his knees beside her, and pulled Diêp into his arms, clutching her as if she might disappear if he let go for even a second. Diêp looked up, startled, her teary eyes wide with disbelief. It was James. That look, that presence, that warmth she had missed to the point of aching. In that instant, every wall she'd built crumbled like paper in a storm. Tears streamed down her face as she threw herself into his embrace, sobbing uncontrollably like a child lost too long in the dark. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She just cried. Cried for all the days she'd been left behind. Cried for the loneliness that no one could ever understand. Cried for the love she'd clung to, even when it felt like it was slipping away. James held her tight, whispering over and over, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Diêp. I was wrong. I never should have left you like that. I should have trusted you. Every day without you, I was a ghost. I thought I could move on, but the more I tried, the more I hurt, because my heart, it never stopped loving you." Diêp clung to him, her trembling hands gripping the fabric of his rain-soaked shirt. She didn't need apologies. His presence was already the healing she'd longed for, but she also needed these words to know that her pain hadn't been one-sided, that her love hadn't been in vain. In that small, rain-drenched kitchen, between sobs and soft heartbeats, two wounded souls found their way back to each other, through tears, through truth, and through a love that had never truly faded. No more silence, no more misunderstandings, only two hearts, beating as one again. And James knew from this moment on, he would never, ever let her go again. That day, after all the storms, James and Diêp finally sat down together. No more tears, no more anger. Only two hearts, once wounded, now learning how to love again. The atmosphere softened. Rain still tapped gently against the window pane, but inside the small kitchen, each drop sounded like a tender melody, soothing two weary souls as they quietly found warmth once more. James brewed 2 cups of hot tea. He wasn't hesitant or awkward anymore. All the invisible distance between them had melted away with the tears and that tight, healing embrace. They sat facing each other, their eyes no longer avoiding the truth, and then, with a quiet exhale of relief, they began to share everything. James spoke of the sleepless nights, of the moments torn between doubt and love. He confessed that there were times when he wanted to push his feelings aside, to forget her in the name of pride, but his heart wouldn't let him. He missed every touch, every look she gave him, and the smile that used to light up his mornings. He had been living in a world stripped of color, a hollow shell of life where nothing truly breathed without Diêp. Diêp listened, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, but full of warmth. There was no blame, no resentment. Then it was her turn. Her voice trembled, yet it was sincere. She spoke of the loneliness that had nearly consumed her, of the mornings she woke to silence where laughter used to be, of how empty the world felt when walking past the places that once held their memories. She admitted there were times she wanted to let go, but deep down, she never stopped believing James would come back. Their story had no clear villain or victim, only wounds left unnamed and love that had gotten lost between pride and silence. But in that moment, when everything was said and everything was heard, their love became deeper, more real than ever before. They laughed. They held hands for a long, quiet while. Every apology, every thank you, every ounce of pain was replaced with understanding. They didn't need to make grand promises about the future, because they knew, as long as they had each other, they would be strong enough to keep going. That day, on a seemingly dreary, rain-soaked afternoon, James and Diêp didn't just find their way back to each other. They found their way back to themselves, softer, braver, and more full of love than ever. And, most importantly, they rediscovered their reason to love all over again. The love story of James and Diêp is proof that truth can heal even the deepest cracks, and that love, when nurtured with understanding and compassion, will always find its way back. If you too believe in the power of genuine love, in hearts that know how to listen, forgive, and hold on through the storms, follow this channel to discover more heartfelt stories like this one, where every moment reminds you that true love still exists, and it's closer than you think.
Chào mừng mọi người đã quay trở lại. Bạn đang theo dõi một hành trình tình yêu không dành cho những trái tim yếu đuối, nơi James và Ly Tu Diep đang đối mặt với những cú sốc, sự phản bội và những sự lựa chọn sinh tử. Nếu bạn yêu những câu chuyện đầy cảm xúc, kịch tính và không đoán trước được điều gì, hãy nhấn đăng ký và bật thông báo ngay bây giờ, bởi vì những gì sắp tới sẽ khiến bạn nghẹt thở. Liệu tình yêu có thể vượt qua được hiểu lầm? Liệu sự thật có được phơi bày khi quá muộn? Đừng rời mắt, bởi tập tiếp theo sẽ là một đôi cắt dữ dội, một tình yêu và niềm tin và sự tha thứ. Nếu bạn cũng tin vào sức mạnh của tình yêu chân thành và những trái tim biết lắng nghe và tha thứ, hãy theo dõi kênh để cùng đón xem những câu chuyện cảm động như thế, nơi mỗi phút giây đều khiến bạn tin rằng tình yêu sự thật vẫn luôn luôn tồn tại.